First, we have a local author in studio this morning, and you can get to meet her. She's also up on our YouTube feed as well right now, WATD Radio on YouTube. We have Dr. Amber Bartlett. She is from the South Shore. She is a local author, and she has a new book out called Balance is a Scam. Dr. Bartlett, good morning to the broadcast.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on WATD, and I'll hold this cover up here as well for the YouTube viewers up there. Balance is a Scam. Ambition, Motherhood, and Why We Don't Have to Pick One. All right, so Dr. Bartlett, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you have a doctorate of psychology, and it says you wear several different business hats. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's get to know you. You're a South Shore mom and author and doctor, right?
Yes. I always like to say I don't like being bored, so
no, I guess not.
I keep myself busy. So, just a little about myself. Like you said, live on the South Shore, single mom to a little 4-year-old son.
Oh.
I own a couple businesses. So we were just talking a little bit ago about my dog care business on the South Shore. So just, facility to do dog daycare, boarding, grooming.
Yeah.
And then I have my business psychology practice. And so I have my doctorate in psychology. And what I like to say is I was in corporate, for a lot of years. I was driven. I wanted that career, climb the ladder.
In psychology?
No, in business.
Really? That's who you were. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I ended up as a business psychologist, because I love psychology. I love studying human behavior, why we do what we do. And I knew the clinical path just wasn't really for me. So I was like, well, what else, can I do? And then, came upon the option of combining business and psychology to focus on that. And I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I love. So in that practice, that's, what I really focus on is working with other business owners to combine the psychology and the business side. And you don't hear about a lot of business psychologists, so people usually look at me like, what is that? What do you do?
What does that mean?
But again, it's human behavior. I believe that results in business, they're not driven by strategy or spreadsheets. They're driven by the human behavior. And when you're a business owner, it's driven by a lot of your behavior. So once we can understand why we do what we do, why do we make decisions, how does that impact our results? That's when things come together.
And you try to help businesses grow by looking at those things that might be holding them back? Is that what you talk about?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, because, a lot of them come to me like, I'm just not growing, or I don't know how to make this decision, or my employees are driving me crazy. And it's like, okay.
So that's primarily what you do then, Dr. Bartlett. Okay, all right.
Yes.
So she's got like CEOs on the couch. Okay, she's got them in there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but that's important, as you said. So much of what we do and the decisions we make, the products we buy, is driven by our brain and human behavior. And so it makes a lot of sense probably to look at that.
Yeah.
And so you're doing all of these things, but how can you make it all work out? Single mom, there's dogs involved, there's CEOs that are giving you trouble. All right, so balance is a scam. So what does that mean? What's the premise here? How did this come to you?
Okay, so the book came from about 2 years ago. My son was 2, and I went through, a big life change where I woke up, found myself a single mom.
Okay.
And, already at that time, I was still in corporate, owning and running a couple businesses, had a 2-year-old, and then all of a sudden woke up and was like, wait a second, like, I don't know how to do this by myself. Like, what is happening? And so that's kind of where the book came from. I always say it's part memoir, then part the psychology expertise behind what I know now was happening, not at the time, but just kind of, to share that. So I discovered during that time. And also, I'm an older mom, because it was not expected. I never expected to have kids. So, here I am, older mom, single mom, all these businesses. My whole life has been focused on career, building businesses, reaching the top. And now I have this. And I had no clue what I was doing. And you always hear from everyone, right? Like, you need to find a balance. You need that work-life balance. And so, of course, that's what I went for. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can balance it. And I realized you can't. It took like a breakdown one night, and it's in the book, where it literally just overwhelmed me. And I got to a pivotal point where I said, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't balance. This doesn't work. And so that's the premise of the book, is literally, and there's no research. I won't say no. There's very little research out there connected to ambition and motherhood specifically. And so that's kind of, where that came from. Balance is a scam. It is an unattainable standard that we are consistently pushed to achieve and setting us up for failure from the beginning. And so instead of going after this unattainable standard of balance, understanding that what really works, your only option, is to make an intentional choice to prioritize what matters in the moment. So, that's where I kind of got, like, one day my kid's going to need me more than work, and I have to be okay with that, and that's my focus. And another day, work, I really need to focus on what I'm doing and, make sure he's taken care of, and I have to be okay with that, because there is literally no balance.
So where does this myth come from then? Why do you think we push ourselves into this? Do you ever kind of wonder, like, where we get this message from about where does that come from then?
Yes, it's a great question. And I feel like it comes from, several sources, right?
Yeah.
If you think about, a lot of times it comes from our experience, growing up, right? That becomes the message, or, you have the different generations. If we look back, right, up until pretty much the 40s, women didn't even really work. They were stay-at-home moms. That's the point.
Yep.
And
one
then,
income, one car.
Yes,
we're all
exactly. And I think just kind of, as things changed, the mentality didn't really keep up, and so then it was like, okay, well, I'm still expected to be a mom and to get the house stuff done, but I also need to work because we need the income. And so it was, just that message organically became, you got to find a way, you got to do both, you got to balance that. And so I think that's, one source. And then, I just know, again, just from, when I had a kid, never expect to have a kid. You go out and you read the books, you read the magazines, and that's what they're saying. Like, so many times, that work-life balance. I hate that phrase. It is a pet peeve of mine, because I want to be like, that's not an option. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it comes from a lot of just the societal messaging that hasn't changed.
And then there's also probably a perception as well, growing up. Sometimes we see others and think, maybe we haven't, and we idolize our parents sometimes and think, and then, you peel away the layers and sometimes you find out it's not as, they're really trying to keep it together, but maybe it's not really as much as you think. We usually put, some of our people in our family on a pedestal, someone that you respect,
And social media hasn't helped with that either. Social media has exacerbated that messaging, where I talk about it a lot in the book.
Oh,
we always talk about,
now
like,
you can do everything, right?
Yeah. And it's like that Pinterest mom, oh, she makes these videos, she's doing everything organic. And so we're like, whoa, I'm failing. I'm not doing that. I tell a story in there. I'm going to make homemade goldfish. They're going to be, I'm going to do that Pinterest. It was a disaster. My kid wouldn't eat them. They looked like mutant blobs. Like, it just didn't work. But again, it's just that perception, that you're seeing, not real life.
Pepperidge Farm got angry at you for that. Yeah,
you're holding yourself, again, to a standard that doesn't exist.
Balance is a scam. Ambition, motherhood, and why we don't have to pick one. And for people to get the book, Dr. Amber Bartlett, how do they get this book so they can read more?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's available on all the main, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Apple Books has the ebook, and also my website, dramberbartlett.com. You can go there to order the book and also, just kind of learn a little more about it and about me.
And when it does get tough, it's also important, right? Reach out, talk to people, right? You should, tell them sometimes when it becomes too much that it's okay to lean on others when you need to.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole section of the book, is finding your tribe, because I had to do that and realized.
Balance is a scam.
Yes.
Ambition, motherhood, and why we don't have to pick one. There it is. We'll hold it up for the YouTube audience there, and we encourage you to pick it up by going to Dr. Amber Bartlett's website to find out more. Dr. Amber Bartlett, BARTLETT.com. And we appreciate you coming on. She's a South Shore mom, business owner, and also someone that has a doctorate in psychology and professor as well. You've done that? Yeah. Wow. Yes. Okay. You've done it all. Well, Dr. Bartlett, it's been great to get to know you, and thanks for visiting us here at WATD.
Thank you for having me. That was fun. Thank you.